What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. This is the Texans Better Talk Show. Thank you guys so much for the support and for tuning in. And if you're new to the channel, don't be afraid to like and subscribe for more daily Texans content. We've really been growing really fast throughout this past week, and I appreciate all the support. And even if you're not a Texans fan, if you just want to see what's going on with the Texans and you want daily content, subscribe because I'm your guy. So, perhaps the most polarizing receiver in this draft class, not because of the talent, just because of where is he going to go, where is he actually going to end up in the draft, is Matthew Golden. Now, let me say right off the jump, there's a lot to like about Matthew Golden. And let me also kind of relay my whole draft process and where I have receivers ranked right now. So, in my opinion, the Texans need a wide receiver, and I am perfectly fine if they draft a receiver in the first round. Now, prior to looking at, Matthew Golden, my thought was Luther Burden's not going to be there. Tet McMillan's not going to be there. Travis Hunter is definitely not going to be there, but I classify him as a cornerback. So you're really looking at like the third receiver, which is Emeka Egbuka. And for me, Emeka Egbuka was the only realistic receiver that I would want for the Texans. Part of that is because my draft strategy at the wide receiver position has been don't take gambles, don't take risks, don't go chasing ceilings and chasing upside. Just take the dude who, when you put him in day one, you know your team will get better. Your passing offense will get better. And Emeka Egbuka is one of the most high floor receivers in this draft, which is why I think he's a set in stone first round pick, a late first round pick, and why I think he could end up on the Texans. Now, he was the only receiver I really expected and really wanted in the first round. And to some extent, that's kind of the same case, but I still think we need to talk about Matthew Golden, his talents, and kind of where he ends up in my overall ranking. So let's just get straight into this video. Matthew Golden spent 2022 as a true freshman at the University of Houston. 38 catches, 584 yards, 7 touchdowns. 2023 was also the University of Houston. Ironically enough, 38 catches as well, 404 yards, and 6 touchdowns. So the same amount of receptions, about 180 yards less. After that season, he ended up transferring to UT this year, where he put up 58 catches, 987 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Really had kind of a breakout season at the University of Texas, playing against that higher competition. Ended up being the #1 receiver over Isaiah Bond, at least statistically, on the Longhorns team. Now, one kind of little minor thing, maybe not so minor, but he did have 13 drops over those 3 seasons, which we'll talk about later in this video. Now, a little nugget for you guys, 2022 University of Houston team, guess who was the leading receiver on that team when Matthew Golden was a freshman? Tank Dell. Tank Dell had 109 catches, 1,398 yards in 2022, the year before he got drafted by the Houston Texans. So Tank Dell was the #1 receiver in 2022. Then you had Keyshawn Carter, and then Matthew Golden. Again, Matthew Golden had 38 receptions. Keyshawn Carter had 38 receptions as well. They both had around 600 yards. So he actually played with Tank Dell, which is kind of interesting. And the reason why he was at University of Houston is because he wanted to stay local. This dude is 21 years old. He was born in Houston, Texas. Actually went to Klein Cain High School. So shout out, if you're from Klein Cain High School. He was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, and he also ran track. So he did the 100 meter and then something else that I'm forgetting. So now when we talk about the game, so in 2023 at the University of Houston, he only played 9 games and had a foot injury causing him to miss the last, I believe, 3 games of the regular 4 games of the regular season. In 2022, he only played 10 games played. If you add the bowl game they played in, he played 11. So he has missed some time. These are 13 game seasons, so 9 out of 13, 10 out of 13. In 2024, he started all 15 games at UT, ended up getting injured again with a foot injury in that the college national championship in playing against Ohio State. So I think it's a little early to mark him as like an injury concern designation. Obviously, you don't want to judge someone based on their injury history. That can change for better or for worse in the NFL. But I think that's something you have to note. But let's keep going. Let's keep talking about his stats. So Matthew Golden is 6 foot, 195 pounds, which is really good size. Not too big, not too small. Like I said before, Isaiah Bond kind of worries me. Don't want him in the first because of his size. And there's a lot of other things to talk about with Isaiah Bond, but I do like Golden's frame. 6 feet tall, 195 pounds, not too big, not too small. And let me just say this right off the start. I think Matthew Golden has some of the best body control and tracking in this draft class for a wide receiver, not including Travis Hunter. I mean, he really can contort his body and allows him to catch pretty much, a ball thrown at any angle. Like he can contort his body and break in balls that, a lot of these receivers probably can't catch. He's also a really good contested catch player with very strong hands, and he's not the tallest dude, but he does have that nice vertical, and he's able to, high point balls. And again, that also comes from like just being able to twist his body and be leaning in midair as he catches a ball. So he also creates great separation. So there's literally little bits and nuggets of his game that can really, I feel like anyone could like. Like if you like his body control, there's something there. If you like his hands, there's something there. If you like his separation, there's something there. So those are really kind of some of my initial notes. So those are some of my kind of initial thoughts and notices when I look at this player. Let's continue going with some pros. So he's an excellent route runner that can create separation. So when he's running like hitches or comeback routes, he really just plants his foot in the ground and just rips out of the top of that route and creates a lot of separation with his speed. He also has good vertical speed, and he can catch balls, straight go routes down the middle. And we've seen him kind of catch contested catches, whether it's in the end zone or on the side or back shoulder. Like if the ball is around him, he will twist and he will find it. And I really, really like that. And I'll also say I don't think he's a terrible run blocker. At 6 feet tall, is he a guy who's going to kind of come off the line and, blast a corner? Maybe not. Does he have trouble holding blocks at times? Yeah, sometimes. But again, not the end of the world. Just definitely don't think that's something you could say. Like maybe if we're talking about Besh, you could say great run blocker. I don't think you can really say that about Matthew Golden. The only few cons I have about this player, there are some yak concerns, yards after catch. I don't think he's super creative once he catches the ball and has it in his hands. I don't think it's horrible. I expected kind of more just with his natural athleticism. But yeah, again, just not super creative after the catch. And then getting back to that point I mentioned earlier in the video, he has 13 drops over the season. So there'll be just an occasional drop that it's not a hard thrown ball. It's right there. And I know he had a drop in the end zone once. And it's just maybe a concentration thing, or I don't really know what it is, but he just tends to drop a ball every now and then that should have been caught. He makes more difficult catches, which is why it's kind of surprising. One caveat to that I will say is that his drop rate cut in half at the University of Texas. So in this most recent season, he cut his drop rate in half, which is just, you love to see that. That's awesome. So, and again, I'll add a couple of pros in there. Great route runner and great route tree. If you want a guy who can play outside and inside, I mean, I'm confident that he can do that. I'm more confident in his outside playing ability than Emeka Egbuka. I definitely think Emeka Egbuka can play outside, but I've seen more of it from Golden, and I just like his ability to make contested catches. He's physical enough, and at that size, I think that's really all you can ask for. So now let's talk about where he stands in the draft. Let's talk about if the Texans have a chance at drafting him. So from my kind of opinion, and again, this could change barring performances at Senior Bowls and combines and things like that, but I think he's a year one starter. I think he could go the highest probably in the late first, the lowest probably the early second. It wouldn't shock me if he went lower, in the second round. It also wouldn't like super shock me if some team, kind of rolls the dice on him and takes him higher. Now, again, my whole draft philosophy has been don't be risky, just pick the receiver that's going to improve your team. Matthew Golden is a little bit more of a risk factor. I mean, you have the fact that he's really only had one productive season in college. You've got a short injury history, which isn't great. You've got the dropping. I mean, if you're dropping balls in the NFL at the NFL level, that's just a great way to get cut from a roster. You're not going to make the team. I don't think that problem's like going to persist with Golden, but it is there. So again, there are some concerns that don't make me feel, super solid at taking him at 25. But here's one scenario I will give you. So let's say like the Broncos or the Steelers, who have been, a lot of people think they might take a receiver. let's say they take Emeka Ibuka, or let's just say there's a situation where the Texans are at 25 and Emeka Ibuka's off the board, Luther Burden's off the board, Ted McMillan's off the board. Then I think you can start having the conversation of, hey, we should look at this Matthew Golden guy. Because really, I don't know if there's too many receivers you would take at that point over Golden in the first. And like I said, I've been really impressed with this tape and what he's put on, and I really like the dude. I know I've listed a couple of cons, but I mean, I think he could be a late first round pick. Now, I could also totally see him, maybe falling later in the second. And if you take him in the first, maybe that's too high and that's a reach. But then I could also see a receiver run happening maybe towards the end of the first, and to where he's not there by the time the Texans pick in the second round. So again, this is just the nature of the draft. That's kind of how it works. I'm not super confident in taking him at 25 unless Ibuka's not there and you're just set on a wide receiver. Then I would feel comfortable taking him at 25. If it's between him and Ibuka, take Ibuka. Just, less risk. He's shown it for longer. Ohio State wide receiver. His floor is, I would say higher than the Matthew Golden's. But yeah, if Emeka Ibuka's not there, we can start having the conversation for sure. That's kind of my draft, thought about him. And if he shows up in the second, I definitely think you take him in the second. I mean, if you go O-line first, definitely, and he's there in the second, definitely take him. I don't think he'll be there by the time the Texans pick him. That's kind of my thoughts on Matthew Golden. Great receiver from Texas. Would love to bring him home from Houston. So let me know what you guys think about Golden, though. Do you like him? Am I a little bit too high on him? That's probably maybe a little true. And do you think there's a realistic chance that he could be drafted by the Texans? So that's all I got for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one, man. Peace out.